We all think we know what success looks like, don't we? It's that big promotion, right? The roaring applause, crossing some triumphant finish line. It's this picture that our culture just paints for us day in and day out. But here's the crazy thing. We throw that word success around all the time. But do we ever really stop and think about what it actually means? I mean, it's this goal we're all supposed to be chasing, but what is it really? So, what if our whole idea of what it means to make it is just broken? That's what we're going to do. We're going to take that old idea of success, tear it down, and build a new one from the ground up. All right, first up, we've got to look beyond the scoreboard. That super narrow, competitive way of seeing success that we're all taught is the only way that matters. This is the idea that life is basically one giant game with clear winners and losers. Success gets boiled down to these external things you can show off. The fancy job title, the big salary, the public applause. It's all about racking up points that everyone else can see and count. And this comparison, it really hits the nail on the head. The myth says success is some finish line you cross. But the reality, it's a process. It never really stops. We're told it's all about winning, but really it's about growing. And this is the big one. The myth tells us to fear failure, to avoid it no matter what. But the truth is, real success is actually built on learning from our failures. And that idea, it's a total game changer. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about how failure isn't the enemy of success. It's actually one of its best teachers. Think about J.K. Rowling. Before she was, J.K. Rowling, her life looked nothing like what we call successful. If you were looking at society's scoreboard, she was losing, big time. She was divorced, a single mom, just trying to get by. Okay, now look at this number, 12. It doesn't look like much, does it? But this simple number, it represents a massive wall she had to face. That's how many publishers rejected Harry Potter. 12. 12 times she was told no. 12 times the world basically said, this isn't good enough. Any one of those rejections could have been it, right? The sign to just stop. But she didn't see it that way, because here's the key. Failure isn't a final judgment on you. It's just feedback. It's a lesson. For her, those no's weren't proof that she was a bad writer. They were just obstacles that made her even more determined. And this all comes down to a powerful psychological tool, having a growth mindset. It's this deep down belief that you're not stuck with the abilities you have right now. You can get better. So when a challenge comes along, it's not a test you might fail. It's an opportunity to learn. It's what lets you see a no, not as a dead end, but just a different path. Okay, so if success isn't about collecting trophies, then what is it? Well, that leads us to what we could call the inner architecture, the stuff that real, lasting success is actually built on. And this is so important. True success isn't about all the stuff you pile up on the outside. It's about building a strong foundation on the inside, something solid that won't crumble when things get tough or when you start comparing yourself to everyone else. So what does that foundation look like? Well, it has a few key pillars. First, there's personal growth, all that quiet work you do to get better and to trust your own judgment. Then there's perseverance. And I don't just mean being stubborn. I mean having the smarts to keep going even when you're not getting any applause. Of course, there's purpose, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And finally, balance, the wisdom to know when to push hard and when to pull back and take care of yourself. Now, this idea leads us to a totally different kind of success story. It's not the loud, flashy, overnight kind. It's about something much quieter, the power of your own pace. Our culture is absolutely obsessed with overnight success, right? But let's be real, that's mostly a myth. Real, meaningful success, it usually shows up quietly after years of patient, unseen work. It's the small things done consistently that add up to something big. Let me tell you about a guy named Elias. His path wasn't some rocket ship to the top. Nope. It was years of just practicing, figuring things out, with no guarantees. Then, one of his projects connected with a handful of people. Just a few. But that small spark started to grow. People started to trust his work. And eventually, he made a real, deep impact. See? His success wasn't one big explosion. It was this slow, steady build. Or what about Mira? She spent her whole life thinking she was too slow, too careful, that it was a weakness. But then she realized that was her superpower. Her success came when she stopped trying to be faster and just embraced her own pace. People came to trust her because they knew how much care she put into everything. And that's really the main takeaway from these stories. It's not a race to the finish line. The real measure of your success is about how you travel the road, not how fast you get there. So, where does that leave us? How do we make this real? Let's pull all this together into one simple idea, thinking of success not as a destination, but as a practice. It's basically a 3-step approach. Step 1, build your inner architecture. Work on your mindset, your perseverance. Step 2, find your own pace. Stop trying to keep up with everyone else and honor your own rhythm. And step 3, make it a practice. Every day, focus on your purpose and on contributing something meaningful, not just on winning. When you think about it this way, it changes everything. Success stops being this thing you're desperately trying to reach way out in the future, and it becomes something you can live right here, right now. It's not a destination, it's the journey itself. So, let me leave you with this thought. If success isn't something you get, but something you do, something you experience every day, then what will you choose to experience? What does your practice of success look like?